Hey everybody, this is Marouf from Free Palestine TV. We have our guest today, Leila Hatoum. We are in the Nabatiyeh area taking the road to the Iqlim al-Tufah, or what we can translate as the apples region in South Lebanon. Leila's mom is from this region. Where are you going to take us today, Leila?
Well, we're going to take you to a series of villages, including Arab Salim, my mom's village. It's imperative for people to see the destruction over there and how people are reconstructing. It's very fast. It's a fast process.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to get in the car right now and continue this drive. So we're in the town of Arab Salim. We've been driving through the main street. We saw that there wasn't much destruction visible to us, but as you can see, there's a house here destroyed. There's another being reconstructed. Leila, during the 60-day bombardment, how many houses were destroyed here in the village?
Well, dozens of houses in this village were destroyed, and dozens others were affected by this destruction because the missiles were going everywhere. And at the end of the day, the Lebanese are resilient. They don't wait for anybody to reconstruct. They do the reconstruction themselves. So as you see, there's destruction over here and the reconstruction happening at the same time.
And it seems like they've been fast doing the work because much of the houses that were damaged on the main street have been fixed up already.
Well, basically, that's the main street. So it's the facade for the village, right? But there are lots of destroyed homes inside the village that later on we'll get to see as well. And it takes time to reconstruct them because you have to move the rubble and then you have to find the material to outsource it as well.
There's a washing machine. Do you think we can find the Israeli dirty laundry, or did Netanyahu take it to the White House to wash?
I don't think there's enough detergent to whitewash all the Israeli crimes, and they wouldn't fit over here as well. They would need the White House
industrial laundry machine. Okay, so let's get to check on the rest of the town.
لا خلاص. يلا. عادة you go downstairs وتحت في الشرام.
Leila, the village your mother's from, Arab Salim, the name, the etymology, where does it come from?
It actually comes, it's two words joined together, Arab Salim, or the people of Salim. Salim is believed to be a prophet, and at the same time some people say he's a god for the Canaanites. And it's directly tied, this name is tied to Ur-Salim or Ur-Salim, which is Jerusalem, al-Qudus. Ur-Salim is the city of Salim, who is a Canaanite god, and some people say he was a very holy man or a prophet. So both towns and both cities at the same time are tied through that name.
And yeah, the Zionists try to Hebrewize the name into Ur-Salim and deny the fact that it was built by the Canaanites as the city of God Salim.
Of course.
And you said that there is a shrine here for
Yes.
Prophet Salim. Let's take a look if we can go in.
We actually pronounce it over here Salim.
Salim.
So it's not the silent S, it's the Sad. I think it's closed now. They open it for prayer, but usually you get to enter over here and then inside they show you the whole place and the name of Salim and where it comes from and who's the forefathers of Prophet Salim and the people who came with
The
him.
whole family tree.
Exactly.
Perfect, perfect.
So now we're approaching a place that's very important that was important for the Israelis. You see this big hill right on your right side where there's a big barrel on top. There's a reservoir. That hill is called Suwaida Hill. And Suwaida Hill, the Israelis used to have a major military outpost over there that used to bombard all the surrounding villages, Arab Salim, Haboush, Sijid, you name it. Nobody was able to move from this place without being caught by the Israelis on top of this hill. And the resistance at one point or other, they used to try to climb and they succeeded several times. The Israelis had landmines around that hill as well. It's very steep. You get to see it as a small thing from this side. Once we roll down the street, you'll get to see how large it is. It looks like a huge mountain. And you'll get to know its importance, its strategic military importance when you actually film it from down. So in 2000, the Israelis withdrew from this area. They left lots of ammunition behind them, and then they came in with their F-16s and they bombarded the whole place so nobody could use it. So now we're approaching a place where the resistance from Amal movement managed to assassinate General Ibrahim Hadi. He was a colonel at the time, an Israeli colonel who used to govern the eastern sector. And he was also responsible for bringing in the collaborators and training them. And on that bridge, you'll get to see it. They have a big placard where it says, this is the place where Colonel Ibrahim Hadi got assassinated by the Amal movement. And you can see it. This is the name, Ibrahim Hadi.
We're lucky to be in this location at this time.
It is. I mean, it's like, imagine 85 until 2025, that's 40 years. And it's in February. And it happened over here. That action that happened over here at the hands of the people from Arab Salim forced the Israelis to change their tactics in South Lebanon. Directly following this attack, the Israelis rounded up all the civilians from the surrounding villages and they started trying to ethnically cleanse the land and kick them out. And the Lebanese resisted at the time. And since that time until 2000, the Lebanese increased their attacks against the Israelis. They understood that the Israelis are not invincible and they managed to kill them. You get to see it now, Suwaida, from here, from the other side. See how huge it is? And of course, it starts from the bottom of the hill all the way up. It looks like a whole huge mountain from the other side.
It's also, there's not much vegetation cover to try to climb.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the Israelis used to throw thermic bombs over here, thermal bombs and barrels, and they used to burn any shrub that used to grow. So we had lots of oak trees, you know, the wild vegetation that Lebanon has, especially in South Lebanon. Nothing grew for a long time because of them. And this is what they're trying to do in the eastern sector along the border towns of Adaysik, Farkila, and Khiam. They're throwing herbicides and they're throwing also what you call thermal bombs. They used white phosphorus throughout the war to burn any possibility of having shrubs and trees growing, which could hamper their vision when they're trying to monitor the area.
You know, they use Agent White, which is 2 grades under Agent Orange, that was used in Vietnam to burn the forests. But they also use this Agent White in Canada to, after they do clear cuts of forests around the indigenous reserves, and then they throw this Agent White so nothing can grow, including the wild berries and that the indigenous people pick to eat. And of course, all the wild animals like the deer, the moose, and all of that get poisoned. So when you eat them, you also get the poison. And finally, when the rain comes,
it poisons the soil.
Yes, that takes the topsoil with it, and it goes down into the water streams.
Oof.
So anything downriver from those areas is also poisoned. And this is what will happen here. It's not only
Look at this. I want you to actually see the level of, like along the way, you'll see lots of destroyed homes.
We're just entered Nabatiyeh, and there's a huge amount of destruction in Nabatiyeh.
They almost wiped out the city center as is. But if you see over here, they didn't even spare the houses of worship. This is a mosque, one of the oldest mosques in Nabatiyeh. And under international law, targeting houses of worship is a war crime. So this stands a testament to the Israeli war crimes that happened over here over the past period.
I think there's at least 5 mosques destroyed in Nabatiyeh.
Just in Nabatiyeh alone, yeah, there's 6. And in other areas, other regions, they completely wiped out the mosques. If they didn't bomb them, they blasted them during the ceasefire period.
And of course, they targeted churches. They also targeted shrines of prophets that are prophets for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And they didn't care. They didn't discriminate in their hate of our connection to our heritage and to our land.
Because their project is to wipe out anything that proves that there are natives in this area. They delete culture, they delete history, and they delete any signs of human life. They don't care.
You know, there's something that people don't understand, how Zionism is not unique in terms of European urge to pretend to be an indigenous. For instance, you know, the word Canada, and they call themselves Canadian, is from the Mohawk Iroquois language, which means Kanata, my village.
I didn't know that.
And so when the Canadians, the white settlers, call themselves Canadian, it means he's from the village.
Yeah.
And the indigenous Mohawks, Iroquois, are not from the village. Same thing with the Quebecois, Quebec. Quebec is literally the word Der Zur, the place where the river narrows.
Oh.
And it's from the Algonquin language, the Algonquin people where Quebec City was. And so when the French colonizer calls himself Quebecois, he is the one from where the river narrows, and the Iroquois are not.
You get to see the destruction over there. I don't know if you can take it with the camera. It just narrows towards all the destruction that happened in Nabatiyeh. It's crazy. It's crazy. They spared no one. I mean, like they even bombed my bank over here. There's a branch for my bank, and I used to go like down when we were staying at in the southern house, and I go down to pick up some money, Now there's no place. I have to drive all the way down to other areas.
They even, of course, attacked the Qard al-Hassan.
Yeah, but my bank is
co-op.
a purely Lebanese international bank, so
Yes.
it has nothing to do with Qard al-Hassan.
Yes, but they went also crazy on the Qard al-Hassan, which is a good deed or the good loan, Islamic bank. So we are at the Litani River.
We're crossing from north to south.
Yes, and we're breaching 1701 and the might of the
You're
United
reaching
Nations.
1701. I'm a Lebanese citizen.
Yes, yes. This shows you how much actual power the United Nations has, which is zero power.
Well, they do have the power of basically watching a beautiful view every morning and thanking their God that they are in a nice place, and that's it, right?
They don't defend the Lebanese people. They don't defend the Lebanese territory. They don't, the 1701 implemented against the Israelis. They only try to implement it against the Lebanese.
But at the end of the day, you have to understand, United Nations UNIFIL, the entry forces in South Lebanon, their mandate is not to defend Lebanon or the Lebanese. Their mandate is to oversee the violations happening from either side, recording them. They're a registrar for violations, and that's it. I mean, if you remember, back in 1978, when they were first basically installed over here, after the first Israeli invasion of Lebanon, they stayed until 1982 doing nothing but registering violations. 1982, the second Israeli invasion of Lebanon, you have the most famous picture of UNIFIL soldiers standing like this and an Israeli Merkava passing from behind their back all the way down to Beirut. They did nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, UNIFIL, they have no power because they're acting under Chapter 7, Chapter 6, not Chapter 7. Chapter 6, they are peacekeeping operations. Chapter 7, they can use force against anybody who attacks them.
So for 100 years, the United Nations didn't help the Palestinians, didn't help the Lebanese, didn't help the Syrians, the Egyptians, the Jordanians, and today it's not going to help either. And this is why the Lebanese people and the Palestinian people know that the only way they can save themselves is if they fight for their rights.
Definitely. Who set up the United Nations? The colonial powers, and they gave themselves the power of veto, right? So they didn't set up any peacekeeping operations except to maintain their interests in a certain region.
Well, we're seeing almost the last days of the United Nations and the whole international order that came after World War II because of the brazen violations of international law, genocide, ethnic cleansing. Now the emperor saying that he's going to take over Gaza without even buying it.
Yeah.
So we're in this moment that all we know of this international order is going to collapse.
Well, look, the United Nations is not going to last for long if it continues to act the way it's acting. At the end of the day, it needs reform or dismantling and building something new. If you don't have equal nations having equal votes across and being able to stop the aggressors, it's useless.
Leila, we're in Wadi al-Hujair.
Yes.
There's a placard right behind us, if you can tell us a little bit about it.
So basically, on the 24th of April, 1920, a group of Lebanese and Arabs gathered over here. They were actually, let's shoot the United Nations first. This is UNIFIL. This is UNIFIL's operation area. And you get to see United Nations interim forces in South Lebanon going around in patrols. Of course, they cannot go on patrols without notifying the Lebanese Army first and the Lebanese government. This is part of the mandate. Over here, they have to take permission from the government.
Before we were...
are going to liberate the valley over there.
They're going to a liberated area. Yeah. They don't dare to go to the Israeli side.
They are going to attack the Israelis now.
You wish?
So, before we got interrupted by the UN, we were talking about this conference in 1920.
Definitely. So this is the place where dozens of Lebanese leaders and citizens gathered over here, and they wanted to say no to the French mandate and the British mandate over the whole area, not only Lebanon, but also Palestine and Syria. And they refused that their area be divided as per Sykes-Picot. And that's why on the 24th of April, 1920, they gathered over here and they launched the first spark of resistance against the French and British occupation. They call it mandate, but it's an occupation in fact. And there's a historic thing, this is for me at least. My grandma's uncle was here, and he was the one who tried to assassinate General Gouraud, the French governor over Lebanon.
And for people that don't understand this, the south of Jabal Amil, what is now called the Galilee area in Palestine, was actually supposed to fall within Lebanon naturally, geographically, and the French, in a deal with the British, moved this border.
Later on. So yes. Lebanon was declared a state back in 1920 with recognized borders. In 1920 till 1921, the Zionist League, that's the name, ZL, Zionist League, wanted to take more pieces of land from South Lebanon because it was rich in water and vegetation. Palestine usually, in majority, is a desert area. It's a dry land. So they asked the French to give them that piece of land. The French sat down with the British in 1923. They had Nukampole agreement, where they carved out the first 7 villages from Lebanon. They completely ethnically cleansed it, kicked its people out. That includes Khalsa, Qudus, and Melki, among other towns. And they gave it to the British. The British gave it later on to the Zionist League. And this is how you have Kiryat Shmona and other settlements being built in occupied northern Palestine. That's actually South Lebanon.
The Hula Valley, and it's about the watershed
yes.
of the Golan Heights. The
Definitely.
Zionists wanted to take it. We are in this area, which the Israelis came in with their tanks during the 60 days, or at least in the last week or two of the last 60 days.
So this whole area was called the cemetery of the Israeli Merkava. The 4th generation Merkava back in 2006, they wanted to test it and they wanted to sell it to the Europeans. When they ventured into Lebanon, they got destroyed over here. You had dozens of Merkava tanks destroyed, and the Israelis lost billions of dollars worth of military contracts. They couldn't even sell those tanks. But I wanted to highlight this Adham Khanjar. Adham Khanjar al-Sa'bi is my grandma's uncle.
And beyond the 2006 war and the Merkava tank massacre, in this war, the Israelis were trying to take over this area to destroy it, to make sure that the Lebanese people don't use it. And as we see right now, the Lebanese farmers are back already to grow crops on this land.
True. Now they're actually putting fertilizers, and they will benefit from the rain because we're winter time. Comes spring, which is in a month from now, you'll start to see a very green area over here. Usually they plant wheat over here and other vegetations. So it will be very beautiful. I do hope that the Israelis don't destroy it again because they don't like anything that's beautiful, anything that's living.
Yeah.
Do you see this?
Yeah.
All the way? That's where the Israeli Merkavas pass. Wherever they pass, they leave a trail of death. Burn the trees, bomb them, ruin a nice cafe place.
Yeah, there was clearly parts of the cafe here and here, and tables under the nice trees.
Yeah.
These are acorn trees. They're natural to the region. And as you said, they hybrid them for other nuts to grow on the same tree.
True. Look at this, you get to see the power lines going down. They've destroyed everything.
There was many metal poles that carry the power lines that they took down. Oh, and look at this. There's what they would call in English a poppy seed. Shaqa'iq al-Nu'man in Arabic. This is the national flower of Palestine. And the Anglos, because of World War I, there was a lot of English and other dead Australian, Canadian soldiers. They made this into the symbol of the end of the war. So when they have the Armistice Day celebrations in the West, they put on these poppy seeds. So even the symbol of our nation that they stole, Palestine, the land of Palestine, they made it into a symbol of their war.
Well, these two outlived the Israeli invasion of Lebanon this war. The Merkavas couldn't take them.
And Palestine will be back like that.
Inshallah. Beautiful.
On April 22nd, they came to their house, the Hagana, the Stern Gang. And at gunpoint, they entered the house. It's an old style Arabic house with the garden and the foyer in the middle. They haven't finished building it. There's the tiles all piled on the side and the fountain still in the corner, not built. And my grandmother was cooking white beans, fasulia bayda. And they put them on the truck. They didn't let them even take the food or anything. And they dropped them at the entrance of Bint Jabal. My grandmother was pregnant with my mother, and she gave birth the minute they entered Bint Jabal. But, you know, I can imagine the pot of fasulia bayda being cooked. Yeah, and the rest, you know, all of my mother's family, they stopped cooking fasulia bayda. For them, it was a curse. Except my mother, she would continue cooking it. But my aunts would, when they know that she was cooking fasulia bayda, they wouldn't come to the house. Alhamdulillah.
And by the way, guys, we just have Qasim Haidar with us. This is the famous Qasim Haidar who actually fed and helped and gave medication to stray animals throughout the past 15 months of the war. He risked his life to actually have the animals. He's from Shaqra, by the way.
رحنا زرنا, we went and visited Shaqra.
Hey.
طبعا the destruction and amount of martyrs is huge بشقرة. الله يقويكم.
صار شي لبيتكم انتم تحت؟
أنا بيتي وسيارة الدم.
Both his house and his car were destroyed. He's staying at his in-laws.
بتتذكريها السيارة اللي كانت تطلع بالفيديو؟
مظبوط.
هذه هلا على جنب الشارع.
That's the same car he used to go and take to the borders to help the animals with. The Israelis just destroyed it. It's really crazy.
Yes, it became very famous, the videos that he was filming, feeding the animals. I mean, on the counterpart, we saw a lot of videos of Israeli soldiers killing animals.
True.
Torturing cats and dogs. And in Palestine, but also it was images of a donkey that was being attacked by the Israelis here with white phosphorus.
True. عم يحكي انه معظم الفيديوهات اللي انت صورتها انشهرت كثير برا مقابل الفيديوهات الاسرائيليه عم يعذبوا الحيوانات. بس في فيديو لحمار كان محروق ظهره وانت ساعدته، مدري بغل ميول او دونكي.
هلا هودي اصحابه مش عارفين اذا عايشين او ميتين او مأسورين.
نو.
هودي بمنطقة حولة.
اوكي.
يعني هون الستار هن من جوا.
اوكي.
فمش عارفين بقى مأكدين اذا هن ماتوا ولا لا.
للحيوانات ولا اصحاب الحيوانات؟
لا اصحاب الحيوانات والحيوانات لإلهم.
He's saying that the animals and their owners are from Hula side. The Israelis have raised sand barriers over there. You can't actually cross. So we don't know if the people who own these animals and the animals are deceased and martyred now or not. Earlier he was telling us that the Israelis came to this place. They climbed over for tourism. They took pictures and everything.
هلا ما نروح على Aitaroun.
بدك تروح على Aitaroun؟ فتحوها؟
ايه مفتوحة على Aitaroun. في 104 شهداء مع بعض بدهم يتشيعوا الجمعة.
Wow. So in Aitaroun there is about 104 martyrs who are going to be buried on Friday. هو شيلوه من Aitaroun. شيلوه من Aitaroun ولا هن من Aitaroun؟ ليك ما اكبر هالحردون هلا فات لجوا. بيلين في واحد اكبر منه فات جوا لونه اسود.
بدنا نمشي هيك لندخل؟
ايه. لا تعال شوفي هاد اللي بالزوايا كانوا للنبلة يحموا حالهم.
يلا ها. So he's saying in the corners they had set areas for the crossbows. People who used to use crossbows. So to protect themselves they had the smallest, tiniest openings. He's going to show it to us.
بال 2006 هذه الأضرار صارت هي ما كانت.
Okay. So in 2006 basically the Israelis destroyed this part. It wasn't destroyed.
So the damage
Israelis
we
actually
see is from
bombarded.
2006.
Yes. So this survived earthquakes, survived floods, survived the civil war, but the Israelis destroyed it in 2006. So all of these were from the walls that the Israelis destroyed. I think they came now just to assess the damages that they done back in 2006, 20 years ago, nearly.
And the Israelis entered here in 2000, just now in this war, and took some photos on top of this.
Apparently,
videos.
Tourism. He just stood up there, took photos, had some fun.
Let's go inside. Let's see how much.
From the other side?
Yeah. كل الطرق تؤدي إلى روما. وهي كانت تبع الصليبية مزبوط. Crusader Castle.
Most of the citadels in Lebanon, some of them date back to the Romans. The Crusaders came back and then basically they built on top of that. Some of them date back to the Phoenicians. Then the Romans came, the Arabs, the Ottomans, you name it. Everybody passed from this place. Everybody wanted to control South Lebanon and Palestine. And you get to see something very important about this place. It's always on top of a hill, so it overlooks everything. Strategic positioning of the castles.
And we can still hear the drone.
Yeah.
Look at this view.
I get to see it from here. So this overlooks the town right across, from the mountain right across. If you actually just go inside and look, Haida, you get to see any movement from the town across. But not more than that. That's why they have multiple windows. Each one has a different angle. It's really crazy. It's very interesting how they used to build things without the pillars and the...
There's nothing these days they built that will last 1,000 years like this.
No. But don't forget, they're building with stone and lime. Lime actually works in favor of you during change of weather. Mm-hmm. So during winter time, it expands, so it closes any crevices in the walls. Gives you coolness during summertime.
Yeah. Zal.
Hadi, and I have lighting for you if you want. يعني إذا حاطط مدفعية هون, if you have an artillery over here, you hit all these villages. That side, other side.
So this is where the Israelis filmed themselves when they occupied.
هن فاتوا قبل وقف إطلاق النار لهون, صح؟ They entered over here a day before the ceasefire. So November 26th. Let me try and do one thing.
The Crusader castles always have internal water source.
Yeah. And it's always important that the internal water source is not flowing from a river outside, or they might poison you. It has to be a well from the inside. That's why they used to search for well places and then they built.
اسم حيدر، شكرا على الضيافة. أنت أخذت قرار أنك تساعد الحيوانات بالجنوب هون لما بلدت الحرب.
صح.
ليه اجت على راسك هالفكرة أول شيء؟
أنا من محبي الحيوانات ومن مربيين الحيوانات، وبعرف بس يجوع الحيوان إنه ما بيقدر يطلبوا هيك. فكانت المبادرة مني إنه أطلع على كل يوم خصص ضيعة وأطلع حط فيها أكل، جمع فيها الحيوانات بنقطة معينة وحط لهم أكل. طيلة أيام الحرب كان عم بصير هذا الشيء. الحيوان هلا الشخص بيقدر يطلب من جاره بدق تليفون، الحيوان ما بيقدر، هو عنصر ضعيف يعني. فكانت المبادرة إنه ما خليه يوصل لمطرح حيموت من الجوع. حتى أنقذت كل المتصوبين يعني، مش بس موضوع الجوع.
حسينات،
كلاب، غنم، حمار، بقرة، حصان، كل شيء أليف كان يتواجد بالضياع يعني. ما أقول هذا لأ وهذا اللي بيطلع قدامي أي شيء.
وفي ناس طبعا رجعت على ضياعها كان عندها حيواناتها الأليفة اللي شردت، أو الحمير والبقر اللي حكيت عليهم لقوهم انبسطوا طبعا. أكيد
في كتير حيوانات بالضيعة اللي كنت أنا زورها بيبعتولي مسجد إنه بفضلي بعضهم حيواناتهم قدام بيوتهم وماشي حالهم يعني. وحتى ما افترست الحيوانات يعني، ما صارت شرسة من الجوع يعني. ضل في أكل، ضلت بالحروب اللي قبل كانوا بس يجوا يضطروا يقتلوهم لأن يصيروا يهجموا على العالم، لأن وصلوا لمطرحة من الجوع كبيرة. فهيدي المرة ما خليتهم يجوعوا يعني، ما وصلنا لمطرحة إنه جاعوا الحيوانات فيها.
والله شفنا طبعا بغزة كيف الكلاب اللي كانت جايعة والبسينات اللي كانوا جايعين صاروا ياكلوا جثث الشهداء.
صح، بياكلوا الشهداء يعني. هذا الشيء نحن ما صار عنا الحمد لله يعني.
الحمد لله. الله يعطيك العافية على هالعمل الخير، وانت رافع راسنا وفرجيت آداب شعبنا للعالم بهالطريقة، وفتحت قلوب كتير ناس كانت خايفة على حيواناتها الأليفة. وشفنا طبعا بالمقابل العدو، عدو الإنسانية، عدو الحيوانات، عدو الطبيعة الصهيوني، شو عمل بالأرض. صح. وشو عمل بالحيوان وبالشعب وبالناس.
نحن شعب ثقافتنا عالية وإنسانيتنا عالية، وما بنترك حتى حيواناتنا تجوع لحتى نترك ياكلوا شهدائنا اللي بالأرض يعني. مش حتوصل لهيدي النقطة أكيد.
الله يقويكم ويحميكم.
الراس.
كبيرة والله. ننزل نمشي ماشي.
قريب
They are blocking the road.
Okay.
So we drove from the castle, and now we were heading to Mais al-Jabal.
Yeah, this is the beginning of Mais al-Jabal. So this is the last point we can reach before we enter the town. The Israelis haven't left yet. And there's some negotiation happening at the moment if the Lebanese army would allow us to get into the town or not.
Why do you think this location is important, and why the Israelis are still, hovering around it?
Well, take a wide look. It overlooks all the towns surrounding it. So it's a strategic position, especially when you go inside the town, it's on a higher hill. And the Israelis can monitor everybody from across, and they can actually target anyone if they want to.
And of course, if there was Lebanese resistance, they'll be able to see all the Israeli outposts that are there.
You get to see sometimes deep into the occupied Palestinian territories as well.
So they're still worried about the return of the civilians. Over the last 2 weeks, there's been many villages that were freed, liberated by the Lebanese civilians coming back.
True.
But up until now, it seems like here Mais al-Jabal hasn't.
It's one of the last few southern Lebanese towns that the Israelis wouldn't allow the civilians to go back in, not only because they fear something might happen against them, but also because they want to control a place strategically. That's why they don't want to leave.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll wait for hopefully the Lebanese military will let us go in and check on the village.
We'll just wait.
This way takes us to Aitaroun,
Aitaroun.
and there is still some Israelis a kilometer away from here, behind the embankment.
Well, the thing is, the Israeli occupation forces never left this place, and they target anybody that approaches. That's why you see the Lebanese Army bring the last checkpoint before anybody.
We heard an explosion just now.
They're either blasting something or burning something.
And this is a UNIFIL base.
Yeah, the peaceful UN forces who don't
Don't do
engage in any
anything.
fighting, they
Yeah.
just register.
I think it's the Nepalese
Yes.
battalion here. And the Lebanese army is
Right behind us.
here, right behind us, protecting, making sure that if some civilians come here, they don't go all the way where they can be.
Well, they have to be very
Targeted.
careful. I mean, even if the Israelis withdraw, the Lebanese army has to make sure that there are no unexploded ordnance on the ground or landmines or booby traps that the Israelis set behind. We've seen some of those unexploded ordnance hurting Lebanese civilians in the past. So the Lebanese army's mission is to protect the Lebanese and then allow them into the towns that are liberated.
We hear right now that the Israeli government told the Americans they want to stay, and the French, that they want to stay in 8 different points outside the villages.
It's actually 5 different points in various villages, and those points, they've turned them into what you call military outposts. They've started building reinforcements over there, especially across from Adaisi. We have 2 posts over there. One of them is basically also in Kfarkila, and then you have one in Blat, and all the way down to the western sector in Labounia, across from Nakura.
And these points are all outside the villages on hills that overlook the villages. But we also heard the Speaker of the House, Nabih Berri, saying that they will not accept that.
True. Well, it's not only the parliament speakers said that, it's also the president and the prime minister. They all refused that the Israelis stay inside Lebanese territories beyond the 18th of February. And you have to remember one thing, even if those Israeli outposts are on the outskirts of the villages, they are still on Lebanese sovereign territories. So the hill that's across, the hill of Awaida or Talit Awaida, across from Adaisi and close to Kfarkila, that's inside Lebanese territories. And the Israelis have built an outpost, a military outpost over there, and they're reinforcing it. They can target anybody crossing that area, from Adaisi all the way down to Khiam, heading to Khiam.
We're in this garage, and clearly the owner loves to collect antique cars.
It's actually an ambulance.
This is an ambulance, a Mercedes ambulance,
Wow.
but it's also an antique. And we can see here, this one is from the 19...
It says it's from Yunus Abbas. So this ambulance was given to this town, or he collected it, but it was first gifted to the place by Yunus Abbas.
But you can see multiple 1970s and 1960s Mercedeses that are pretty expensive, and they clearly were in very good shape,
Yeah,
even the leather inside.
apparently he had taken a good care of them, and the Israelis just basically rammed them with their tanks, right? I saw the one over there, the
Yeah, there's another 2 of them there.
midnight blue, they call it.
Oh, wow.
بس طالعين عليهم بالجرافات.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And like, what do they gain from that? Destroying antique cars.
Wow.
Look at this, they rammed this one. Totally rammed it.
Wow.
Do you think the door still opens?
Yeah, this is from the 1950s. This is the 1950s model. So this was even more expensive than the green one there. This is an old Peugeot. There was a lot of them, so probably he wasn't going to get a lot of money for the Peugeot, but
Well, it depends. It's a GL, right? So
crushed completely.
I don't think he felt bad about the destruction of the garage as much as the destruction of the
The
cars.
cars. He has a few nice old BMs inside.
Did they do anything to them? No, but they actually bombed the place.
This is Aitaroun.
So one of the actual dogs that he
انقصت ايده هون بالحرب بغار.
he took
صار
him
بكندا.
وعملوا amputation. He sent him to Canada. He got
Who
adopted.
sent him to Canada?
He got adopted. A family adopted him. Well, yesterday we saw a few angry citizens, dozens of angry citizens cutting off the airport road. And the reason is that there was no green light given to an Iranian flight, a passenger commercial flight, to fly from Iran, from Tehran to Lebanon, to actually bring in Lebanese citizens who are in Iran. And the reason is that you do have the Americans and the Israelis interfering in Lebanon's internal affairs, banning Lebanon from actually allowing Iranian commercial flights from landing in Lebanon.
Hezbollah hasn't given any indication about how this is connected, both the funeral and the end of the ceasefire deadline. It seems that Hezbollah is kind of holding itself back.
They're showing some restraint so far. You have to remember that Hezbollah is giving some leeway to the government to be the one in control, to show that Lebanon has sovereignty and it's actually doing its own bidding over its own territories. But what happened at the airport, it proves that the CIA officers who are set inside the Lebanese airport, allowing or not allowing certain airplanes to land or fly out, this is going to be one of the last straws in this country. We saw people moving on the streets. And you have to remember, there are lots of Lebanese citizens who have relatives who were coming to Lebanon from Iran as well.
So we had a tour around the south, starting with your mother's hometown, Arab Salim. And we're in Aitaroun. It's very heartbreaking, obviously, the scenes here. But the people of South Lebanon are strong and they are continuing to come back to their villages. Thank you very much for being with us, Leila. Hatoum.
Thank you for having me.
And we hope to have you again in better conditions, in better times. You're still watching Free Palestine TV. This is Laith Marouf. Go to our website, freepalestine.video. Donate, subscribe to all our socials, and until we meet you next time, we bid you all a free Palestine.